So let's talk a little bit about my expenditures back in June. We still have somebody that's not muted. I need to make sure that you're muted. Let me see if I can find out who's not muted. All right. Okay. So let's go on. So for June, all my rent was collected on time. Didn't have anybody that came in late. I did have one tenant that was not able to pay when the pandemic first hit, and so I'm still getting some feedback from somebody that's not muted. With everybody, let me mute all. All right. One more time here. Yes, okay. So I had one tenant that didn't pay Marches, so I let him spread that out over 3 months. For the month of June, I had several major repairs that came through. I had to refund the deposit on the Norman property after the guy moved out. I had a couple of other repairs on that Norman property that I had to make. Had a couple of central heat and air issues on a couple of properties. I had to replace a fence and a dishwasher, insurance premiums, and then I had a big issue on a built-in stove over my property on 64th. It went out, and so the cheapest one I could find was $1,800. So that one hit me pretty hard. So we had $3,800 worth of expenses for June. Anybody got any questions on any of that? Okay. So let's talk about my Madison rehab. So I started that rehab back in May on the 12th. I estimated the repairs at that time to be anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000. Again, it's going to be a major rehab. I estimated at that time it's going to take me about 4 weeks to complete it. And major repairs to kitchen, bathroom, interior, and exterior. So pretty much taking the hammer to this house and upgrading it. I had estimates all over the place. I had several contractors bid on this job, anywhere from $8,000 to $30,000 for just the labor piece on this one. So I just completed the rehab. It took actually a month longer than anticipated. You say, Ray, that's quite a long time. Yeah. Luckily, I owned the property outright. Didn't have to worry about making a payment during that time. But we'll talk a little bit about what were some of those things, why it took so long, and why it had so much cost overrun. These are the type of things that you get into when you get into a rehab. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So I'm currently sitting at about $28,000 that I spent for materials and labor. That's about $8,000 over my maximum estimate of $20,000. The overruns were mostly around the plumbing and electrical upgrades. That house was old. Had to replace quite a bit of the plumbing and the electrical system once we opened up the floor. So that caused me to have to spend a little bit more. And then I installed some fencing that I hadn't thought about before, and then also some repair to the driveway. So anybody got any questions on any of that? Okay. Again, this is Real Time Thursday, so you guys can open up. We don't have to chat. You can just talk to me on Thursdays, and we can have conversations around each one of these slides.
What year was this property built?
Yeah, this property was a I believe, 1940s property.
Oh, wow.
Very
Okay.
old.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got a question, Mr. Ray.
Yeah.
What do you think was your highest expense on that?
Oh, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to give you the details of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I anticipated somebody was going to ask. What else? Any other questions on this one? And then we can get into some of the details.
Someone asked, is the Madison the one we toured a few weeks back?
Yes, that is the Madison property.
And are we going to get to see the finished product before you
You
rent?
are. Next Thursday, we're going to be doing Real Time Thursday at that house. We're going to meet there, and I'm going to show you the timing at the last slide I have today. So next Thursday, we'll be meeting at Madison at, I believe I got it at 7 o'clock, and then we'll go over to the Ballard property, which I'm getting close to finishing rehab. We'll go over that one at 8 o'clock. So you'll get to see that one hands-on, and hopefully you can ask any additional questions at that time. All right, so you asked about the cost overruns. Here we go. Most of the things I've got highlighted here. Again, had to put in some additional water lines, and this is for the most part the labor costs, right? The materials and supplies. I just added that all up to the 5,000. So the cost that you see for the water line, that's the labor cost. For the extra sheetrock repairs, for the backsplash, I had to retexture the whole house, the new fencing, the granite counters, and then replacing the front and the rear doors. So those were the major cost overruns. They caused me to be about 8,000 over. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
And when you're buying your upgrades and counters and things of that effect, do you go into your box stores, or do you have some of these discount stores you go into?
The discount stores that I use.
Okay.
I mean, you can go to Lowe's, Home Depot. They're pretty
No,
close.
I don't. Yeah, I just wondered.
What else? Any other questions?
Hey, Mr. Ray, if you didn't like own this house right out and had to pay a mortgage, do you think this was in a rehab you would have regretted doing or starting?
You know, it depends on if I was trying to flip it. I would be a little bit disappointed because, you know, of course, I went 4 weeks over, so that means another week of holding costs. And in addition to losing an extra $8,000 to $10,000 off my profit, but since I own the property, it's not as big a deal to me. But yeah, it would have been different if this was a flip, for sure.
So how are you gonna factor these unexpected costs into the rent for the tenant?
All right, I'm gonna have to mute everybody again. Hold on, then you can unmute. Okay, so ask that question again. You can go ahead and unmute, ask the question.
So how are you gonna factor these unexpected costs in for the tenant? Pretty much, you gonna raise the rent just a little bit more, or what are you thinking about doing to recoup your money?
Okay, so I got, I got 3 options on this property. Good question. I'm gonna answer those as we go through my 3 options, okay? If I don't get to it, then you come back to them and say, hey, you didn't answer that for me.
Yes, sir.
All right, what else? Any other questions? All right, so the question that Don asked, okay, so how am I going to recoup that extra money that I pay? So I got 3 options here on this property. I can continue to lease it. It was previously, I was leasing it for $650 a month. Now, if I lease it, I'm going to raise the rent to at least $900 a month. So that's one of the options I've got. Just go ahead and lease it. I'll show you what those numbers look like. The other option I have is I can sell the property, owner financing. I own the property. I can be the bank. I could sell it to someone. So we'll look at that. And then I can sell it using a 1031 exchange. So I'm going to take you guys through each one of these options and what I looked at when I analyzed those options. So option number one, I can continue to lease this property. I've had this property for, almost 20 years. So I can continue leasing it. So let's look at this analysis on leasing. So I can rent it for $900. That's what I'm thinking the rent will go for. I'm definitely not going to be leasing it for $600-700. So the rent's definitely going up. So my monthly taxes will be $28. My insurance will be $40 a month. So when I subtract my expenses from my rent, so I should be cash flowing about $832 a month on this property. And so when you look at my $832 a month, that comes out to about $9,000. So my $30,000, I'm assuming I'm $30,000 into this, right, on my rehab. So even then, I'm still getting a 33% return on my investment on that $30,000 because I'm getting $9,000 back a year. So that means that if I hang on to this property, if I rent it out for $900 a month, then it's going to take me about 3 years to recoup my money. All right. And so I looked at, okay, so what are my pros and cons to keeping this property and just leasing it? Well, if you look at it, I've already made $146,000 on this property that I only paid $17,000 for back in 2002. So I'm way ahead of the game. That $30,000 that I just put in this property, I can write off every penny on my taxes this year. So I'll get $30,000 taken off my tax bill this year if I keep this property. The current monthly cash flow is outstanding. $800 a month cash flow, net cash flow, that's pretty daggone good. The 3-year payback, that's very reasonable. And I practically got a brand new house, right? This house has been totally rehabbed, so I don't have to worry about any maintenance issues. Now, the con to that is that I may not be able to find somebody to pay that $900 over there in the area where this house is. So that's kind of how I looked at it. Let's talk about any questions or comments you guys got on that first option. That's a pretty good option right now. Normally, that's the option I would normally go with right here because I'm gonna make my money back in 3 years and I'm getting 33% return on my money if I can lease it for $900 a month.
If you can't do 900, what you aiming for then? What's your backup
Then
plan?
I start going down 800.
I mean, I know you have the other options.
Point I'm probably gonna sell because it's a very nice property. And I'm gonna tell you here in a minute a couple of properties that have been rehabbed on the northeast side. They're selling for outrageous numbers right now. So yeah, I'll just do the math. Hey, if I can't get 900, I'll lower it a little bit. I won't go any lower than 8. At that point, I'll probably make the decision. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and sell it.
Giving up the goose with the golden egg.
Yeah, I hate selling them gooses, man, but I'm telling you, sometimes when you run the numbers, if the numbers don't run right, remember I said fall in love with them numbers? If the numbers don't work right, then you got to do what you got to do.
So if you had to rent it for less, it would simply take more than 3 years to recoup your investment.
Yes,
It's
and my return on
not a
investment.
bad option.
Yeah, it would just take longer to
Yeah.
get my payback. But the thing about keeping this thing is I get to write that $30,000 off. It comes right off the top of my taxes when I do them. So that's significant for me there.
Yeah, so somebody who is in a different tax situation than you are might want to depreciate that amount, because when you look at the if like a banker is looking at your overall rental portfolio and it looks like your expenses are really high compared to your income, then they wouldn't look at you as a good risk. But you're not in the building buying a lot more house stage of your real estate career. So for you, it probably is much better to take it as a total expense. But somebody who's building, tax-wise, it wouldn't be the best choice. Did you get all that?
I am building. I'm going to purchase 20 more properties. I only got 20. I'm going to get 20 more in the next 10 years.
Okay.
What else? Any other questions on this one? This is the one I'm leaning toward, but I'm keeping my options open. All right, option number 2. So I could sell this property since I own it outright. I could offer owner financing. And so if I did owner financing, if I was a bank, it looks something like this. So the selling price would be right around 100,000. There's another property that's sold about 3 miles from here, 827 square feet for $129,000 on a rehab. It's ridiculous price. But I'm saying they sold it. Other properties that's being rehabbed in this area are selling for ridiculous prices. So, hey, I may just put this on the market and see what happens. So let's say I could sell it for 100,000. That means the buyer has come up with $20K down payment because I want them to have skin in the game. That means I can finance the remaining $80,000, 8% over 15 years. If I'm the bank, and you say, well, why would they pay 8%? The only reason they pay me 8% over 15 years, they couldn't get bank financing, right? So this option is only if I got somebody that's cash rich and they don't have good credit, so they can't go to the bank and get it. So I would carry that note for them. And so the payment would be principal and interest would be $764, taxes and the insurance. It would make their total payment $832 if I did the owner financing. Now, I'm negotiable on this, maybe 10 years, maybe 9%. I mean, this is just a number that I stuck in to play with, but this seems reasonable if I was going to do the seller financing. So any questions on that?
Well, I'll comment. So in my previous incantation, I was an accountant. So I'll comment on the tax benefits of this is that you only pay any capital gains on the portion of the principal that you collect each year. So it's not a big capital gains hit.
Yeah, that would be correct. So I would be basically just reporting the principal. And in this payment, most of the payment's going to be interest. As you know, if you've seen amortization schedules, the beginning part of your financing is always mostly interest. And as you pay it down, then the principal becomes more prominent. What else? Any other questions? The reason I don't like this option is because of these issues right here. First of all, I have to set up an escrow account to make sure, taxes and insurance and things like that. The one good thing is the buyer is going to assume all the maintenance expenses. I don't have to worry about those anymore. But if the buyer doesn't pay, for some reason, then I got to foreclose on it. That's a 3 to 6 month deal whenever you go through foreclosures. And then I won't be able to get any of those tax write-offs anymore. So that's a biggie for me. And then just finding somebody that's, again, that can make that payment, that $20,000 down payment, that's a biggie. Questions, comments?
So is this down payment negotiable, or you are set on 20,000?
It's negotiable. If I get the right person in and I get to talking to them, they say, hey, Ray, I can do 10 and I can do it for, a higher interest rate, things like that. So right now, this is all negotiable. All negotiable. What else? Any other questions?
I'm gonna hold you to that.
What's that?
It's all negotiable. You remember that?
On this issue, on this property.
That right there.
This
No,
option
on this
only.
issue right here.
Well, I got about 10 more minutes. Let's get through it. All right, here we go. So the last option, this is one that many of you may not be aware of. It's called a 1031 exchange. And this exchange basically allows you to avoid paying capital gains taxes whenever you sell an investment property and reinvest the proceeds in another property. And, you know, they got certain limits. You got to do it within 180 days. And it has to be the same type of property or in-kind property of equal or of greater value. So some of you have heard of this. This might be new to some of you all, but basically it's a way for me to sell this property and then to purchase another property with those proceeds without triggering a tax event. So when we talk about the requirements on this 1031 exchange, it requires that I use what they call a qualified intermediary. That's somebody who's going to hold the amount in escrow and make sure I don't use the money to do something else. I can exchange the property for, let's say if I was wanting to buy a commercial building, I could take the funds and go commercial, or I could take it and do apartments. It just has to be an investment property, right? And so one of the other requirements is I got to identify the potential replacement properties within 45 days of me selling this property. So if I sold the property today, I got 45 days to identify potential replacement properties, and then I have 180 days to close on those properties, right? And then I must reinvest the entire proceeds of the sale from the relinquished property. That is the property that I sold. I've got to reinvest all of that or it will trigger a taxable event. And again, if I follow all the rules, I won't trigger a taxable event. Any questions?
Yeah, Ray, I got two questions.
Okay.
First question is, do you have to declare this 1031 exchange at the selling and closing of the home?
Yes.
Or can you do it at later?
No, you have to declare it. You got to add it into the terminology, into the contract. Everybody has to know that you're doing a 1031 exchange.
Okay. Second question I have, can you take the proceeds and apply it to multiple homes?
Yes. And so there you got to my next one. So let's say in this case, I had $100,000. I sold that property. I could purchase several properties using that 100K. I could take 20,000 from each from that 100K, and I could buy like 5 different properties, right? So it has to be at least the $100,000. All the properties have to be at least that or more in value at the end of the day. And then I could also just purchase one property with the entire proceeds. So I got 3 options. What should I do? Should I lease? Should I sell it, owner financing, or should I do an exchange? What do you guys think?
Sell it.
Sell it how? Should I just do the 1031 exchange or just sell it outright?
Owner financing.
Why is that the better deal?
Because you put it in there for a reason. You put it in there for a specific reason.
I put what in there?
I can already tell. The owner financing, I mean, it's a good option, but you did it.
It's a good option, but it requires, it's more risky on my part, and that I have to make sure that I get somebody that I'll make sure that's going to be paying that, right? And that I want to close on.
And
Expansion
cash
state.
flow. Yeah, if you're in expansion mode and your cash flows are important, I would probably go with the option 3, right? If I was selling. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm really considering that. The only issue there, man, you got to really make sure you already got your properties identified. You're ready to go. You know, you can't be waiting till the last minute looking for property. So, you know, when you identify those properties, you have to let them know, here are the 3 properties I'm looking at. And if you don't close on one of those 3 properties, then you're going to trigger a taxable event. So you got to be really, really clear on the properties that you want to buy when you do this.
But I mean, depend on your timing. You have that time as you list it, right? You can be doing that research and whatnot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so as soon as I decide that I say, hey, I want to do this 1031 exchange, as soon as I make that decision, I'm already looking for my houses, right? As this property is up for sale, I'm looking for the houses that I'm going to be trading up to take the proceeds and buy.
So what's the time frame that you have set for yourself to make either
The
of
decision.
these three choices? What
Yeah. So I know I'll be ready to lease the property August 1. So my timing is I'll have my decision made before August 1. So that gives me 2 weeks to play around with it, look at the numbers. I could actually put it up for sale, see what kind of hits I get, you know, and then not commit to anything initially.
Mr. Ray, in my opinion, the math would make sense to do a 1031 exchange. So you mentioned earlier, if you rehab and get it rented for $900 a month, you could cash flow about $832 a month.
Right.
But if you took $100,000 from the sale and then you turn that into 5 other houses that were only cash flowing $200 a month, you would now be cash flowing $1,000 a month instead of $800.
That is true. That's a good point, David. Absolutely.
You know, Ray, and I think the only thing I would say, Ray, to offer to that, unless everyone's in different positions, but you also have to consider, you know, your resources in regards to having the rehab costs it may take for those additional properties. I know you're prepared to handle that, but everyone else could purchase something. They may have to sit on them for a while as they create cash flow to be able to start performing those other repairs.
Absolutely. And then also, Johnny, think about, you know, I only got that 180 days. How many properties can I get rehab in that 180 days?
So 180 days, you have to have them rehabbed and occupied? What is that? How do you?
Yeah, you have to close on the property within 180 days, no exceptions, no extensions, nothing. So that would make it more difficult if I had to try to rehab, you know, 3 or 4 properties.
Right.
I could buy properties that are already ready to go, you know, and skip the rehab. Just, you know, find nice properties, $100,000, put $20,000 down on each one of them. They're ready to go. I could do that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Ray, I believe you can close on the ones that you're ready to close on before the 180 days. All of it has to be finished by the 180 days. I don't think you have to wait to close.
No, I'm sorry if I insinuated that. Everything has to be closed by the 180 days. The clock will stop ticking, and any money that you still have with that qualified intermediary, that money will be taxed if you haven't spent it on closing a new property. That's my understanding.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, we got 1 minute, and I want to, let's go to, I was gonna take you guys to the ballot deal. I don't have time for that. I will go to this. So next Thursday on the 23rd, mark your calendars and I'll send out a reminder. We're gonna have an on-site visit to my rehab projects. We'll be at Madison at 7 o'clock. We'll stay over there for about 30 minutes or so. And then it's a 30 minute drive to ballot. We'll be over there at 8 o'clock and we should be done by about 8:30. So everybody mark your calendars. Again, I'll send out a reminder. Deep dive next Thursday. Those of you that are in town will be able to visit the properties and get more close-up look at what I'm doing. So we are done for the day. Thank you guys again. Everybody have a great day. We will talk to you later.